Jake Morrison stood in the dark room looking at the big screen. The lights from the alien message made his face glow blue. He was the captain of Earth's biggest warship, the UES Defiant. But right now he felt very small. The message played again. Alien voices spoke in languages that sounded like music and grinding metal. Dr. Lisa Carter had worked for weeks to understand what they were saying. She was the smartest person Jake knew when it came to alien languages. Her team had finally broken the secret code the Galaxy Council used for their private talks. What they found made Jake feel sick. For 30 years, humans thought they were part of a peaceful space family. The Galaxy Council had come to Earth when Jake was just a boy. They said they wanted to help humans grow and learn. They gave Earth new technology for farming and medicine. They said they were keeping human weapons weak to prevent wars. The Council told everyone they were protecting the galaxy from the mistakes young species always made. They showed humans videos of planets that had destroyed themselves with powerful weapons. They said Earth was special and needed careful guidance, but the secret messages told a different story. Helen Brooks walked into the room. She was in charge of Earth's military intelligence. Her face was white with shock. She had been listening to more secret alien messages in the next room. "Jake, you need to hear this," Helen said. Her voice shook a little. "They're talking about humans like we're animals they're raising for food." The new message began to play. An alien called Admiral Zexathara spoke to other council leaders. His voice was cold and businesslike. He talked about human harvest quotas and combat conditioning schedules. He mentioned the breeding programs on human colonies. Jake felt his hands make fists. The peaceful cultural exchange programs weren't peaceful at all. The random fights that broke out near human colonies weren't accidents. The military people who disappeared during joint training missions weren't lost, it was all planned. Dr. Carter came running into the room. Her hair was messy and her clothes were wrinkled. She had been working without sleep for days. "Captain, I've translated more files," she said, breathing hard. "The Council has been putting chemicals in the air on every human world. They're making us more aggressive and violent. They've been doing it for 20 years. The room went quiet. Jake could hear his heart beating. Helen sat down hard in a chair. "Why?" Jake asked, though he was afraid of the answer. Dr. Carter pulled up more files on the screen. Pictures of strange alien ships appeared. They looked like nothing humans had ever seen. They were dark and twisted like metal nightmares. "There's something coming from outside our galaxy," she said. "Something that scares the Council more than anything. They call it the Dark Fleet. The Council has been getting ready for war for 100 years. And they want to use us as soldiers," Helen said. "It wasn't a question." "Not just soldiers," Dr. Carter said. "The Council studied human history. All our wars, all our fights. They think humans are the perfect warriors because we never give up. They've been making us even more aggressive so we'll fight better when the time comes." A young officer named Sam Parker ran into the room. His face was red from running. "Captain, we've got a problem," Sam said. 3 human colonies just stopped talking to us. Long-range sensors show Council ships moving toward the outer edge of human space. Jake looked at the star map. Red dots showed where the alien ships were going. They were surrounding human space like a net closing around fish. "How long do we have?" Jake asked. "Maybe 6 hours before they reach the first colony," Sam said. Helen stood up. "I need to call Earth right now. The President needs to know what's happening." Dr. Carter was still looking at the alien files. "Jake, there's something else. The Council has files on every human leader, every ship, every weapon we have. They know exactly how strong we are. And," Jake asked, "they think we're no threat to them. The files say humans are emotionally unstable but strategically limited. They think we'll panic and surrender when we realize what's happening." Jake walked to the big window that looked out into space. Stars twinkled in the darkness. Somewhere out there, alien ships were moving to capture human worlds. For 30 years, the Council had been lying to humanity. They had pretended to be friends while making humans into weapons, but they had made one big mistake. "Sam, send a message to every human ship and colony," Jake said. "Tell them to prepare for combat operations. Full military alert." "Sir, what should I tell them about the enemy?" Sam asked. Jake turned around. His eyes were hard and cold. "Tell them the enemy is everyone who isn't human." Helen looked worried. "Jake, we can't fight the whole galaxy. They have thousands of ships. We have maybe 50 combat vessels." "Maybe they have more ships," Jake said. "But they don't understand what they've created. They wanted to make us into perfect soldiers. They wanted us to be more aggressive and never give up. Dr. Carter looked up from her files. The psychological profiles are interesting. The council species are all very predictable. They follow rules and patterns. They've never fought against anything like humans. What do you mean? Helen asked. Humans are chaos, Dr. Carter said. We make plans and then change them. We break rules when we need to. We do things that don't make sense but somehow work. The council has never seen anything like that. Jake smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. They wanted to use our aggressive nature against their enemies. Instead, they're going to learn what happens when humans get really angry. The communication system beeped. Messages were coming in from human colonies and ships across space. Captains and commanders were asking for orders. They wanted to know what to do about the approaching alien fleets. Jake looked at Helen and Dr. Carter. These women had become his closest advisors during the crisis. They had helped him understand the terrible truth about humanity's place in the galaxy. What are your orders, Captain? Sam asked. Jake thought about all the humans who had disappeared during joint missions with alien forces. He thought about the families on human colonies who had no idea what was coming for them. He thought about 30 years of lies and manipulation. The Council had wanted to turn humans into weapons. Now they would learn what human weapons could really do when they chose their own targets. Send one word to every human in space, Jake said. Just one word. President Richard Stone sat at the head of the long table in the secret meeting room under Geneva. Around him sat the most powerful people on Earth. Military leaders, scientists, and government officials had all come as fast as they could. The emergency call had gone out just 2 hours ago. The room was quiet except for the hum of computers and air systems. Everyone was reading the reports that Captain Morrison had sent from space. The truth about the Galaxy Council was hard to believe, but the evidence was clear. Admiral Karen White stood up. She was in charge of Earth's Space Navy. Her gray hair was pulled back tight and her uniform was perfect, but her eyes showed worry. The situation is bad, she said. We have 47 combat ships spread across 14 star systems. The Council has over 2,000 ships moving toward human space. In a straight fight, we lose, General Paul Adams nodded. He was older than Karen, with scars on his face from wars on Earth before the aliens came. Normal tactics won't work. We need to think differently. Dr. Lisa Carter appeared on the big screen. She was still on Captain Morrison's ship, but her research was too important to ignore. Her face looked tired but determined. I've been studying the Council species psychology files, she said. Each alien race has clear patterns in how they think and fight. The Zephyrians are very logical but slow to change plans. The Korthak are strong, but always follow the same attack methods. The Veltar have amazing technology, but haven't fought a real war in 300 years. President Stone looked around the table. What does that mean for us? It means they think war is like a game with rules, General Adams said. They make plans and follow them step by step. They expect their enemies to do the same thing. A young aide ran into the room with a tablet. Sir, we're getting reports from the outer colonies. Council ships are surrounding New Berlin and Frontier Station. They're demanding surrender. The room erupted in angry voices. Some people wanted to negotiate. Others wanted to fight immediately. A few suggested trying to evacuate the most important people and surrender the rest. President Stone raised his hand for quiet. The arguing stopped. General Adams, what's your military assessment? The president asked. Paul Adams stood up slowly. He had been thinking about this problem since the first reports came in. The council made a mistake. They've been changing us for 20 years, making us more aggressive and unpredictable. But they still think like the old council species. Explain, President Stone said. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to try to save ourselves. They expect us to follow normal military thinking. Adams walked to the big map showing human space. But we're not normal anymore. They made sure of that. Dr. Carter's voice came from the screen. The psychological changes they made to humans are more extreme than they realized. The aggression compounds didn't just make us more violent. They made us more creative, more willing to take risks, more likely to try impossible things. Admiral White frowned. That doesn't change the numbers. 2,000 ships against 47. No, General Adams said. But it changes everything else. They're expecting us to gather our ships and fight like they do. Big fleets, organized battles, predictable tactics. And we won't do that? President Stone asked. We can't do that, Adams said. We don't have enough ships for their kind of war. So we'll fight our kind of war. Another aide came in with urgent news. Sir, 3 more colonies are reporting council ships in their systems. They're all demanding immediate surrender of human military personnel. The room went quiet again. Everyone knew what that meant. The council wasn't just conquering human space. They were collecting human soldiers for their war against the Dark Fleet. President Stone stood up. Outside the underground meeting room, 6 billion humans were going about their normal lives. Most of them didn't even know what was happening in space, but their future would be decided in the next few minutes. Dr. Carter, the president, said, "Are you certain about the psychological profiles?" "Yes, sir," she replied. "Every council species fights the same way their ancestors did 1,000 years ago. They're predictable. Humans are not." General Adams moved to stand next to the president. "Sir, I recommend we authorize unrestricted warfare. No rules, no limits, no mercy. Let every human commander fight however they think best." Some people around the table looked shocked. Earth had spent decades trying to be civilized and peaceful like the council wanted, and that could be seen as terrorism. One diplomat said, "The council has been poisoning our air and kidnapping our people for 20 years, Admiral." White said angrily, "I think we're past worrying about their opinions." President Stone looked at each person around the table. These were Earth's leaders, and they were scared. They had a right to be scared, but they were also angry, and that anger was growing stronger every minute. "The council wanted to use our aggressive nature as a weapon," the president said. "They wanted to point us at their enemies and watch us destroy everything in our path." "Yes, sir," General Adams said. "Then let's show them what happens when they lose control of that weapon." Dr. Carter appeared to be working on something off-screen. "Sir, I'm reading massive energy buildups around the outer colonies. The council ships are charging their weapons. They're not planning to wait much longer." President Stone walked to the communication console. With the press of a button, he could send a message to every human ship, station, and colony in space. Millions of humans would hear whatever he said next. The weight of humanity's future rested on his next words. "General Adams, you said the council expects us to be predictable. What would be the most unpredictable response?" Adams smiled grimly. "Give every human commander complete freedom to fight as they see fit. No coordination, no overall strategy, no rules of engagement. Pure chaos." "That sounds like suicide," the diplomat said. "For the council species it would be," Dr. Carter said from the screen. "They can't function without clear command structures and detailed plans. But humans have been fighting chaotic wars for thousands of years. It's what we're good at." Another message came in. Council ships were now surrounding 8 human colonies. Time was running out. President Stone activated the emergency broadcast system. Every human in space would receive this message within minutes. He thought about what Captain Morrison had said. Just one word. Sometimes one word was enough. "This is President Stone to all human forces," he said into the microphone. "The Galaxy Council has betrayed us. They have been using us and lying to us for 30 years. They are moving to capture our colonies and enslave our people." He paused, looking around the room at Earth's leaders one last time. "I am authorizing immediate and unrestricted military response. All human forces are to engage any council ships on site. No surrender, no negotiation, no mercy." He thought about the one word that would sum up everything humans felt about 30 years of lies and manipulation. "Retribution," he said. The word echoed through the room and across space, reaching every human ear in the galaxy. The word retribution reached Captain Ben Taylor just as the council ships entered his star system. Ben commanded a mining ship called the Hercules in the Proxima system. His ship was big and slow, designed to break apart asteroids, not fight wars. 3 council warships approached his vessel. They were sleek and beautiful, with energy shields that glowed blue around their hulls. Ben's ship looked like a flying construction site next to them. "Human vessel, you will surrender immediately," came the alien voice over the radio. "Your crew will be transferred to our ships for processing." Ben looked around his bridge. His crew of 12 miners and engineers stared at him, waiting for orders. They all knew what processing meant now. The council wanted to turn them into soldiers for their war. "Captain, what do we do?" asked Marie, his young navigator. She was only 22 years old and had never seen combat. Ben thought about President Stone's message. Retribution. No surrender. No negotiation, no mercy. "Marie, how much mining explosive do we have in storage?" Ben asked. About 50 tons of high-grade asteroid charges, she replied, confused. Why? Ben smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. Because we're going to teach these aliens about human mining techniques. The council ships moved closer, expecting the human vessel to shut down its engines and prepare for boarding. Instead, the Hercules suddenly accelerated toward the lead alien ship. Human vessel, stop immediately or we will fire, the alien captain warned. Go ahead, Ben replied. But you might want to back up first. The mining ship Hercules was not built for speed or combat, but it was built to survive asteroid impacts and extreme conditions. When the council ships opened fire, their energy beams barely scratched the thick industrial armor. Ben aimed his ship directly at the largest council vessel. In the cargo bay, 50 tons of mining explosives waited to be delivered. All hands abandon ship, Ben ordered. Use the escape pods. What about you, Captain? Marie asked. Someone has to steer, Ben said. Get out of here. The crew ran for the escape pods while Ben kept the ship on course. The council ships realized what was happening and tried to move away, but they were too close. The Hercules crashed into the lead vessel and exploded. The blast destroyed 3 council ships and damaged 2 others. The shockwave was visible from the surface of Proxima Colony below. On New Sparta Colony, Colonel Amy Foster had been watching council peacekeepers surround the major cities for days. The aliens said they were there to protect human civilians from extremist elements. Now Amy knew the truth. When President Stone's message arrived, Amy activated a communication network that had been hidden for years. She didn't even know why she had built it. Some instinct had told her that humans might need secret ways to talk to each other someday. All units, this is Phoenix Command, she said into her hidden radio. Execute Protocol 7. Across New Sparta, humans who had been living normal lives suddenly became something else. Teachers revealed hidden weapons caches. Farmers activated communication jammers they had disguised as irrigation equipment. Even children began following emergency plans their parents had taught them as games. The council peacekeepers found themselves surrounded by a population that had suddenly become hostile. Humans attacked from every direction using weapons the aliens didn't recognize, homemade explosives, improvised chemical weapons, and tactics that made no sense by galactic standards. Within 6 hours, every council facility on New Sparta was destroyed or captured, but the biggest surprise came from the research station Galileo, floating in deep space between star systems. Dr. Alex Chen ran the station's physics laboratory. For years, he had been researching theoretical energy applications that the council had approved as harmless science, though council had no idea what humans could do with theoretical physics when they stopped being theoretical. Janet, activate the gravity manipulator, Alex told his assistant. Dr. Janet Hill had been working on the project for 3 years, thinking it was just an experiment. Alex, the council regulations say we can't use gravitational technology for anything except research, Janet said. The council can file a complaint, Alex replied, if any of them survive. The Galileo's experimental systems came online. The research station began to change shape, its modular sections rearranging themselves into something that looked more like a weapon than a laboratory. When the first council fleet arrived in the Sol system, they expected to find Earth's small navy waiting for them in standard defensive formations. Instead, they found ships that shouldn't exist using weapons that violated galactic physics. Admiral Karen White commanded the UES Constitution, leading humanity's main battle fleet. Her ships were outnumbered 10-1, but she wasn't worried. Her crews had spent the last 30 years learning to think like humans instead of aliens. All ships attack pattern chaos, she ordered. The human fleet scattered in every direction. Some ships dove toward the sun, using its gravity to accelerate beyond what should be possible. Others hid behind asteroids and attacked when the aliens weren't looking. A few ships simply charged straight at the enemy, ignoring all tactical logic. The council fleet tried to respond with standard military formations, but their neat lines and careful strategies fell apart when faced with human unpredictability. One human destroyer, the USS Fury, was surrounded by 5 alien cruisers, instead of trying to escape. Captain Mike Rogers ordered his ship to spin like a top while firing in all directions. The aliens couldn't predict where the human weapons would aim next. Another ship commanded by Captain Sue Davis pretended to be severely damaged and drifting helplessly. When alien boarding parties came to capture the vessel, they found themselves trapped in corridors filled with creative booby traps. The strangest sight was Dr. Chen's research station. It had somehow become a warship that could change its own mass and density during combat. Council ships would fire at what looked like a solid target, only to have their weapons pass through what had become empty space. By the end of the first day, the human fleet had destroyed or driven off 3 Council attack groups. The aliens began sending confused reports back to their commanders. Human tactics make no sense, one alien captain reported. They attack when they should retreat when they should attack, and sometimes do both at the same time. The Council had studied human history and psychology for decades. They knew humans were aggressive and persistent, but they had missed something important about human nature. Humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to make their enemies understand that fighting humans was a mistake. Captain Morrison's ship, the UES Defiant, intercepted more Council communications. The alien commanders were starting to panic. They had never faced an enemy that seemed to enjoy being unpredictable. The humans are not following any known military doctrine, Admiral Zexathara reported to the Council leadership. Their ships operate independently but somehow coordinate their attacks. It should be impossible. Dr. Carter laughed when she heard that message. They still don't understand. Human military coordination isn't about following orders. It's about understanding what other humans are thinking. Jake Morrison nodded. For 30 years, the Council had tried to make humans more predictable. Instead, they had made humanity more human than ever. The word retribution continued to echo across human space. Every human who heard it understood what it meant. The time for following alien rules was over. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when humans stopped pretending to be civilized. 3 months after President Stone spoke the word retribution, the galaxy was learning to fear humans in ways the Council had never expected. What had started as a desperate defense of human colonies had become something much more dangerous. Commander Steve Martinez stood on the bridge of his ship, the UES Vengeance. He led Strike Force Nemesis, a group of 12 human vessels that had been hunting Council leadership across the galaxy. The aliens had expected human anger to burn hot and quick, like a fire that would consume itself. Instead, they found humans who planned their revenge carefully and patiently. Target acquired, reported Lieutenant Kelly Brown from her sensor station. Council Admiral Thexmore's flagship is in the Vega system, just like our intelligence said. Steve smiled. The alien admiral had been responsible for the harvest operations that kidnapped human families from 3 colonies. Now it was time for Thexmora to learn about human justice. How many ships is he traveling with? Steve asked. 15 heavy cruisers and about 30 smaller vessels, Kelly replied. They're escorting a convoy of transport ships. Transport ships full of human prisoners, said Commander Lisa Park, Steve's second in command. She had lost her brother in one of the Council's harvest operations. Steve looked at the tactical display. 45 enemy ships against his 12. In normal space combat, those odds would be impossible. But humans had stopped fighting normal space combat months ago. Begin the hunt, Steve ordered. The human ships split up and approached the enemy convoy from 6 different directions. They moved slowly and carefully, using asteroid fields and gas clouds to hide their approach. The Council ships maintained perfect formation, following standard convoy protection procedures. Dr. Rachel Ford's intelligence network had spent months infiltrating Council communications. Humans had learned the aliens' languages so well that they could imitate alien voices perfectly. Now that knowledge was being used in ways the Council had never imagined. Council Convoy Theta 7, this is System Command, came a voice over the alien communication frequency. It sounded exactly like a Zephyrian fleet controller. You are ordered to change course to avoid human raiders in the area. Admiral Thexamora's convoy obediently changed direction, moving exactly where the human ships wanted them to go. On the industrial world of Kepler 442b, engineer Tony Miller watched as another factory completed its conversion from civilian manufacturing to weapons production. The Council had been so focused on controlling human military technology that they had completely ignored human industrial capacity. How many ships can we build this month? Tony asked his production manager, Carol White. 60 combat vessels if we keep running 3 shifts, Carol replied. The new automated systems are working better than we hoped. Tony nodded. The Council had taught humans about automated manufacturing, thinking it would make humans more efficient workers. Now those same systems were pumping out human warships faster than the aliens could destroy them. The psychological warfare was perhaps even more effective than the ships and weapons. Captain Michelle Rodriguez led deep strike missions that would appear in Council space, destroy important targets, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. Target destroyed, Michelle reported as another Council supply depot exploded behind her ship. No casualties on our side. Her ship, the UES Ghost, had been modified with experimental stealth technology that Dr. Chen's team had developed. It could become nearly invisible to alien sensors, appearing and disappearing like something from a nightmare. The aliens began to see human threats everywhere. Council ships would fire at sensor shadows and waste ammunition shooting at empty space. Their crews became nervous and jumpy, afraid that humans would appear without warning. But the most devastating development came from an unexpected source. Dr. Patricia Wong had spent decades studying alien psychology as part of the Council's cultural exchange program. She had learned more about alien weaknesses than any human alive. Each Council species has critical psychological vulnerabilities, Patricia explained to a gathering of human military commanders. The Zephyrians become paralyzed when faced with too many decisions at once. The Korthak lose control of their temper when their honor is questioned. The Veltar panic when their technology fails in unexpected ways, Admiral. White's main fleet began implementing what they called species-specific warfare. Human ships would tailor their attacks to cause maximum psychological damage to different alien types. Against Zephyrian ships, humans would present multiple simultaneous threats, forcing the logical aliens to calculate so many possibilities that they couldn't choose any response. Zephyrian crews would literally freeze in place while trying to decide what to do. Against Korthak vessels, humans would broadcast insults and challenges that attacked the aliens' sense of honor. The proud warrior species would abandon tactical thinking and charge straight into human traps. Against Veltar ships, humans would use Dr. Chen's physics-bending weapons to make alien technology behave in impossible ways. The science-focused aliens would become so confused by their malfunctioning equipment that they couldn't fight effectively. Steve Martinez's Strike Force Nemesis closed in on Admiral Thex Mora's convoy. The alien ships had followed the fake orders perfectly, moving into a section of space filled with artificial gravity wells that Dr. Chen's teams had planted weeks earlier. "Spring the trap," Steve ordered. The gravity wells activated simultaneously, creating massive distortions in local space-time. The Council ships found themselves pulled in multiple directions at once, their formations breaking apart as physics itself turned against them. The human ships attacked from concealed positions, using weapons that the aliens still didn't understand. Energy beams that could pass through shields, missiles that changed direction in mid-flight, and gravity weapons that crushed enemy hulls like empty cans. Admiral Thex Mora tried to rally his forces, but his ships couldn't maintain formation in the chaotic gravity fields. His perfectly trained crews were helpless when their standard procedures stopped working. "Human vessels withdraw immediately," Thex Mora broadcast. "This attack violates 17 galactic warfare conventions." "File a complaint," Steve replied. "Send it to the families of the humans you kidnapped." The battle lasted only 20 minutes. When it was over, Admiral Thex Mora's flagship was crippled and drifting. His convoy was destroyed or scattered. The transport ships full of human prisoners were free, but Steve wasn't finished. He had learned something important about the Council species during months of hunting them. They feared individual responsibility more than death. "Admiral Thex Mora," Steve said over the communication channel, "you are hereby charged with crimes against humanity. You will be tried and judged according to human law." The alien. Admiral's response was exactly what Steve expected. Fear. The Council species had lived for centuries in societies where individual decisions were rare and personal responsibility was shared among many leaders. The idea of being personally held accountable for his actions terrified Thex Mora more than any weapon. Across the galaxy, other Council commanders listened to the broadcast. They heard human voices promising individual justice for individual crimes. For species that had spent millennia hiding behind collective responsibility, it was their worst nightmare come true. Dr. Ford's intelligence network reported that several alien fleets had simply stopped moving. Their commanders were paralyzed by the fear of making decisions that might later be judged by human standards. The hunt had become more than military action. It had become a campaign to destroy the psychological foundations of Council society. Humans were teaching the galaxy that actions had consequences, and that individuals would be held responsible for their choices. The Council had wanted to use human aggression as a weapon. Instead, they had awakened something far more dangerous: human justice guided by human determination. The galaxy was learning that humans didn't just fight to win. They fought to make sure the guilty were punished and the innocent were protected, and the hunt was just beginning. 1 year after the word retribution had changed everything, Admiral Jake Morrison walked through the great halls of the former Council chambers on Nexus Prime. The massive building had once been the center of galactic government, where alien leaders made decisions about the fate of billions of beings across the galaxy. Now it served a very different purpose. The huge amphitheater where the Council had once debated humanity's proper place in galactic society was filled with representatives from 43 different species. But the seats of power had changed hands. Human officers and officials sat where alien overlords had once ruled. President Stone arrived at Nexus Prime aboard the UES Liberty, Earth's newest and most advanced starship. The vessel had been built using technology that combined human engineering with captured Council designs. It was faster and more powerful than anything the aliens had ever created. "Mr. President," Jake said as Stone entered the chamber, "the tribunal is ready to begin." At the center of the amphitheater, 12 alien leaders knelt in a circle. These were the surviving members of the Council's high command, the beings who had planned humanity's enslavement for decades. They were not in chains or cages. Their defeat was more complete than any physical restraint could achieve. Admiral Zexathara, who had once spoken so casually about human harvest quotas, now couldn't meet any human's eyes. The proud alien leader who had commanded thousands of ships was broken by the simple knowledge that his victims had won. Dr. Lisa Carter stood at a podium nearby, ready to present her final report on the Council's crimes. She had spent the past year documenting every detail of the aliens' deception, from the atmospheric poisoning to the kidnapping operations. "The evidence is clear," Dr. Carter began. "For 30 years, the Galactic Council systematically lied to humanity about their intentions. They poisoned our air to make us more aggressive. They kidnapped our people for military experiments. They planned to sacrifice an entire generation of humans in a war that could have been avoided." General Paul Adams stood beside the president. The old soldier had been promoted to Supreme Commander of Galactic Defense Forces, a position that didn't exist a year ago. Now he commanded the largest military force the galaxy had ever seen. "The question now," General Adams said, "is what we do with them." Some of the human officials wanted harsh punishment. The aliens had committed terrible crimes against humanity and deserved to suffer for what they had done. Others argued for mercy, saying that humans should be better than their former oppressors. President Stone walked to the center of the chamber. The alien leaders flinched when he approached, expecting punishment or execution. Instead, the President of Earth did something that surprised everyone in the room. "Stand up," he said to the kneeling aliens. Admiral Zexathara and the other Council leaders slowly rose to their feet. They looked confused and frightened. "The Galactic Council is dissolved," President Stone announced. "Your authority over any species in this galaxy is ended forever. But you will not be executed or enslaved." The alien leaders looked shocked. They had expected death or imprisonment. "Instead," the president continued, "you will help us prepare for the real threat that's coming." Dr. Carter activated a holographic display that showed the edge of the galaxy. Dark shapes moved in the empty space between galaxies, still years away but definitely approaching. "The Dark Fleet is real," she said. "Our analysis of Council files confirms that an extragalactic invasion force is heading toward our galaxy. They will arrive in approximately 8 years. Admiral Ben Taylor, the former mining ship captain who had become one of humanity's greatest heroes, stepped forward. He had been placed in charge of the new Galactic Defense Force, a military organization that would protect all species from the coming threat. "Every species that wants to join the Defense Alliance is welcome," Ben announced. "But they will earn their place through merit and contribution, not through manipulation or deception." The chamber erupted in voices as representatives from dozens of species began talking at once. The Zephyrians wanted to know what role their logical thinking could play. The Korthek offered their warrior traditions. Even the Veltar were eager to contribute their advanced technology, but there were conditions. The age of species thinking they're superior to others is over, General Adams said firmly. The alliance will be based on cooperation and mutual respect. Any species that tries to manipulate or control others will be removed. Captain Michelle Rodriguez, now promoted to admiral, presented the new military structure. Human officers would lead the defense forces, but every species would have representatives in the command structure. The key difference was that promotion would be based on ability and results, not on species politics. We've learned that diversity makes us stronger, Michelle explained. Human creativity, Zephyrian logic, Korthak courage, and Veltar technology. Together we can build something that can face any threat. Dr. Patricia Wong had been studying the psychological effects of the new galactic order. Her research showed something remarkable. Species that had been enemies for centuries were learning to work together under human leadership. Humans have a unique ability to bring out the best in other species, Patricia reported. Our unpredictability forces other beings to be more creative. Our determination inspires them to work harder. Our sense of justice makes them feel safe. The former council chambers were converted into a planning center for the defense against the Dark Fleet. Species that had never cooperated before were now sharing technology and resources. Freely engineered Tony Miller's industrial networks had expanded across the galaxy. Automated factories on hundreds of worlds were producing ships, weapons, and defensive systems using designs that combined the best ideas from every species. Dr. Alex Chen had established research stations throughout the galaxy where human and alien scientists worked together on projects that would have been impossible for any single species to complete. President Stone addressed the gathered representatives. One final time, a year ago, the Council tried to use humanity as a weapon against their enemies, he said. They wanted to point us at the Dark Fleet and watch us destroy ourselves fighting their battles. The chamber was completely quiet. They were right about one thing, the president continued. Humans are weapons. We're weapons against tyranny, against deception, against anyone who tries to harm the innocent. He looked directly at the former council leaders. You wanted to use our aggressive nature to fight your war. Now you'll learn what it means to have us fighting for something we actually believe in. Admiral Morrison activated the long-range sensors that had been built into the chamber. The display showed the current state of galactic defenses. Thousands of ships patrolled space routes. Defensive stations protected every inhabited system. Early warning networks watched for any sign of the approaching threat. But the most impressive sight was the cooperation between species that had been enemies for millennia. Human ships flew alongside alien vessels in mixed crews. Former enemies shared information and resources without hesitation. The Dark Fleet will find a very different galaxy than the one they're expecting, General Adams said. They'll find species working together instead of fighting each other. They'll find defenses built through cooperation instead of fear. Captain Steve Martinez, now in charge of intelligence operations, presented the final piece of good news. Human deep space reconnaissance ships had made contact with several species beyond the galactic edge. Some were refugees fleeing the Dark Fleet. Others were resistance groups that had been fighting the invaders for years. We're not alone in this fight, Steve reported. There are allies out there and they're eager to join our cause. President Stone smiled as he looked around the chamber. Representatives from dozens of species were already making plans, sharing ideas, and building friendships that would have been impossible under the old council system. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The council had tried to create perfect soldiers and instead had awakened something far more dangerous. A species that fought not just with weapons and tactics, but with an unbreakable determination to protect what they valued. As the representatives began to leave the chamber, planning to return to their worlds with news of the new alliance, President Stone stood alone in the center of the great room. Admiral Morrison joined him. "Any regrets, Mr. President?" Jake asked. Stone looked up at the display showing the approaching Dark Fleet. Still years away, but definitely coming. The Council spent centuries preparing for this war by building weapons and gathering slaves, the President said. "We'll prepare for it by building friendships and earning allies. He turned to face his old friend. When the Dark Fleet arrives, they'll find something they've never encountered before. A galaxy that refuses to surrender. Led by a species that doesn't know how to quit. Outside the Great Chamber, the work of building galactic defenses continued. Humans and aliens worked side by side, preparing for the greatest challenge their galaxy had ever faced. The age of council deception was over. The age of human determination had begun, and somewhere in the darkness between galaxies, ancient sensors detected the first stirrings of a response they had never encountered before. An entire galaxy preparing to fight back.